much rather be celebrating in person. We think you'll like the alternative we've come up with. Please post pictures of yourselves in the comments so we can at least be together that way. So while I did register to vote on my 18th birthday, my actual 18th birthday, I didn't really become an activist until about 4 years ago, which is when I joined the first Reno Women's March Planning Committee. Since then, I have had the privilege of meeting so many amazing people, and for that, I am profoundly grateful. One of those is Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. My daughter and I had the privilege of spending time with her when we visited DC in the summer of 2017, and she hosted all of her Nevada visitors for coffee and conversation. What struck me then, and should have been no surprise, is how graciously she listened to what we all had to say. Catherine Cortez Masto made history in 2016 by becoming the first woman from Nevada and the first Latina ever to be elected to the United States Senate. And while I'm still stunned it took until 2016, I'm grateful that she broke that glass ceiling. Before that, she served 2 terms as Nevada's Attorney General when she became well known as an advocate for seniors, women, and children. As Attorney General, she led the push to break up sex trafficking rings in the state while also protecting Nevada seniors. In Congress, she remains a strong advocate for women and children. She is a co-sponsor of the Healthy Mom Act, she introduced the Service Women's Health Transition Training Act, and she is a co-sponsor of the DREAM Act. One thing you may not know is that she is also a graduate of the University of Nevada, Reno, as am I. I could go on, but you didn't come here today to hear from me. Please join me in welcoming United States Senator Catherine Cortez Masto.
Oh, Jackie, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I am absolutely delighted to be participating in the 5th annual Women's March. First of all, let me just thank the many people involved in putting this virtual march together. You know, we're all finding new ways to connect in these little tiny boxes now during this pandemic. But I also know it takes work to make this successful. So thank you to everyone for all of your time. You know, when millions of women marched for the first time in 2017, we couldn't have known what a difference we'd make in Nevada and really all over the country. I remember that day very clearly. And since that march 4 years ago, we've seen in so many ways what a positive difference we can make when we make our voices heard. We truly are better together. And so to all who have worked together and found community in one another over the past 4 years, from making protest signs to writing postcards to registering voters, thank you. You know, this engagement matters, and you have made a historic difference in our democracy through our unprecedented levels of participation in our government. I am optimistic with the first woman vice president in our nation's history. We are moving in to a new era of representation. Now, we're 3 days in to a new presidential administration, thanks to all of you and I and everyone in Nevada's congressional delegation. We are rolling up our sleeves and we're getting to work, really. We have to stop the spread of this pandemic, right? We have to make sure that Nevadans get the help that they need to cope with the economic fallout and to pave the way for a vibrant recovery that puts the needs of our community first. So I am proud to be the first woman senator from the great Silver State, thanks to many of you. And I am inspired every day because of all of you. You spent time not only marching, but you spent time fighting for so many in our community with the goal of uplifting all of us. And that's where we should be. We are better when we are united and working together. So I just want to say thank you. I look forward to working side by side with you, being united with you as we move forward, not just with a new administration, not just with an opportunity here, but the chance now to make succeed what we have all been working for. Our work isn't done yet. The election may have occurred. We may have gotten the results that we wanted, but there's still the work to be done. And I cannot thank you enough for remembering that. And so I will be there with you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jackie Rosen, and I'm proud to represent the great state of Nevada in the United States Senate. I want to start by saying thank you to the Reno Women's March Organizing Committee, who worked long and hard to make this event a success. And I want to thank all of you for coming out for the 5th annual march today. We've made so much progress in getting a seat at the table and making sure that our voices continue to be heard. It's incredible to think how far we've come, and I'm honored to be the second woman ever to serve Nevada as a U.S. Senator and to represent a state with 2 women senators. And I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to my great friend and colleague who's also participating in today's march, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. I'm proud to follow in the path of incredible female trailblazers and public servants who dedicated themselves to the idea that women deserve freedom. Freedom to make their voices heard, freedom to pursue a career, freedom to control our own bodies, and freedom to fight for our futures. We have accomplished so much, but there's still work to be done. The COVID-19 crisis could set women back a half-decade, forcing many women, including mothers, out of the workforce due to a lack of support. The COVID-19 pandemic has also been devastating for women's health, and due to structural inequalities in our healthcare system, it's been especially devastating for the health of women of color. In order for women to progress and move forward, it is critical that all of us work to address the barriers that hold women back in the workforce and prevent women from seeking access to critical care. It's more important now than ever before that we keep up the fight. So I want to make a request of all the women here today. Let's keep fighting for our fair share. Let's keep breaking down barriers, and let's keep working to achieve a stronger community, an equal society, and a better country. I have no doubt we will succeed because together, women can achieve anything. Thank you, stay safe, and keep up the fight.
No Charlotte Harry, yeah, my name is Charlotte Harry. I'm from the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, and I will be offering you a prayer, and I'm glad to see that you are all gathered here, and our prayer will be in my Paiute language. Ishmina ya amu numu manamutter. Pishaku ya sumun. Pishaku ya non tamiko tap wayuakuma. Tama pia tipa which the United States. Pishan the maker sote. No karamin and napu and a strike. Talk to me to go to one shake. Ya no want to yes. No we took him with checker. On the board, no even a Pishakwe, ya Pishakwe, Shamiak, no make of nice shade, nigger Pohan and Yaquapi Hagampa.
It is our responsibility to honor Indigenous peoples of the Great Basin. In the South, we honor the Southern Paiutes by their name, the Nuuvi. In the North, from Pyramid Lake to the Mojave Desert, the Numu take pride with the pupfish, trout, and kuyui. Extending from Death Valley to the Ruby Mountains and beyond are ancestral lands of the Western Shoshone and Goshutes. Throughout the high desert to the alpine areas of Tahoe, the Washoe stories center around their beautiful lake. All Indigenous peoples have place names that were trade routes and areas dedicated for gathering, hunting, and healing. Indigenous peoples continue to have access to honor songs and prayers that bring a balance and an indebtedness to protecting the lands, wildlife, and waters against sickness. We honor Indigenous teachings and the continued protection we seek for our Earth Mother.
For the past 4 years, Indigenous peoples, specifically women and children, have been leading the Reno Women's March. We march and advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We march for land protection from mining and resource extraction. Our moccasins on the pavement are a reminder of the deep connection we have to our ancestral lands. With each step, we honor the strong Indigenous women and girls who have been stolen from us due to colonial violence. We walk forward in their memory, uplifting their voices that have been silenced.
Hello, My name is Cheryl Johnson, and I'm a member of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. And we recently had a tragedy here in our community. My niece Amanda and her unborn baby boy Ezra Davis were murdered in a domestic violence act. Both their lives were taken. And I know that many, many of you out there are hearing Amanda's story. And I pray that you would take it to your own communities and tell that story. Reach out to the young women out there that are being hurt so they will never have to face this in their own communities and in their own lives. And on behalf of my sister Jolynn Sander, the Davis family, we would like to thank all of the community, all of those nationwide that have been praying for our family and for our people. You've touched our hearts, you've warmed our hearts, and it's helping us to get through this terrible time. So I would like to say Pishat you. Thank you so much.
The jingles I can hear, they sound like rain showers. I can feel my feet switching forward. My heart chants a beat, and I follow. My sacred dress brings healing. Prayers bounded by the jingles. I lead by tradition. My dance is medicine for our people.
We are outraged and fiercely aroused by our anger. Our shock leads us here. Where are Amanda's soft footprints that lead to her house, that sheltered a Native woman, her kids, and now buried baby in her womb? What outrage we feel. No handsomely smoked buckskin to smell on his feet. No cradle board to hold for grandma. No beaded buckskin dangles for baby to watch. Happy baby bounded and smiling too. What could be for the future is no more. Indian baby taken away, and mother too. Lay shame where need be, diseased by a colonial pox. Rid this from infected men. Push domination and patriarchy away.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to the 2021 Reno Women's March. My name is Wendy Stoliarov. I'm a local activist, a former candidate for office, and the communications director for some of Northern Nevada's largest labor organizations. And I'm so happy to have you joining us here today. This year, our Women's March is going to look a little different, but no less joyous. Today we're bringing together speakers, singers, and spoken word performers to celebrate and focus on how we can work together to make the world and our community a better place. Speakers will be talking about some of the biggest and most important subjects affecting all of us. Issues like the environment, LGBTQIA rights, aging, racial and social justice, healthcare, and more. And they'll also be giving us opportunities to dig in and help. Please join us again on January 30th from 11 to 12 for breakout sessions with nonprofits and community organizations that need you, right here in Reno. You can see more info and sign up at womensmarchreno.org. This year's Reno Women's March will be an opportunity to kick up our heels and sneakers to recognize all that we've accomplished over the past 4 years while imagining the bright future ahead of us. It's our time, a time to imagine a better future with an America that is inclusive, diverse, understanding, and welcoming. After all, we're better together.
I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, child, tired of the bullshit. Gone, dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yes, Lord. Trying to get some new shit in there. Swimwear, going to the pool shit. Come now, come dry your eyes. You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need advice, let me simplify. If he don't love you anymore, just walk your fine ass out the door. I do my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, girl, need to kick off your shoes. Gotta take a deep breath, time to focus on you. All the big fights, long nights that you've been through. I got a bottle of tequila I've been saving for you. Boss up and change your life. You can have it all, no sacrifice. I know we did you wrong, we can make it right. So go and let it all hang out tonight. Cause we don't love you anymore. So walk your fine ass out the door. And do your hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? And we gon' be all my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Yeah. Alright. Listen, if he don't love you anymore, then walk your fine ass out the door. And do your hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? And we gon' make you hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling?
Hello, my name is Jasmine Bean, and I'm a critical care nurse here in Northern Nevada. On the behalf of frontline healthcare workers, I have been given this great honor and opportunity to speak alongside many inspirational women about the COVID-19 virus. When asked what it is like as a frontline worker of this epidemic, I can only answer that this is what I imagine being on the front lines of a battlefield would feel like. Every shift, my fellow nurses and healthcare workers prepare for our battle against this deadly enemy. For weeks, we reused single-use N95s in an attempt to shield us from harm. We pray we won't catch this virus or bring it home to our loved ones, and we spend countless hours ignoring our own needs to ensure our patients are receiving quality care they deserve. In the face of COVID-19, I have seen too many casualties, and like many nurses, I have held too many hands of dying patients gasping for air while their families weren't allowed in to say goodbye. I have also seen too many nurses leave work in tears from heartbreak and burnout because we are being pushed past our limits. Some may say, as healthcare providers, this is what we signed up for, which is true. We did sign up to serve our community and take on this burden. But we also signed up to give quality care to our patients by having proper and recommended PPE and safe nurse-to-patient ratios. Nursing has always been a women-dominated profession, and today, I look to my fellow women
I look to my men and community to care for us by believing this virus is real and taking recommended precautions by washing hands frequently, social distancing, and wearing masks. I look to our senators to fight for us and our patients and to be our voice. And finally, I look to corporate healthcare to value us instead of seeing us disposable, and to provide us with recommended PPE, and finally, to choose patience over profit. Thank you.
COVID-19 has turned our lives around. It was a pandemic that we were not quite prepared for. And as a result, we've had untold suffering and death. However, there is now a light at the end of this dark tunnel, and that is the vaccines against COVID-19. There are 2 current authorized vaccines. The FDA, based on excellent data from their clinical trials, approved for emergency use both the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. These vaccines were created very rapidly because all the science had been done in advance. Messenger RNA is proving to be a very potent stimulus for the immune system. And the 2 vaccines are both messenger RNA vaccines. This little coded piece of RNA that codes for the spike protein is ingested by white blood cells in our bodies from the inoculation. And the white blood cells then process this protein and make it a part of their outside coat. Then the other white cells come and make antibodies. The antibodies are potent and they are effective. For the vaccines, 95% effective for both Moderna and Pfizer in preventing illness. That's a big deal when we look at the mortality of this virus. So what's happening now? We're distributing this vaccine. There was a plan to distribute quite rapidly, but the states were really mandated to do their own. So what are we doing in Nevada? The state has had a playbook in place since October, and it's been amended multiple times based on experience. And that's a good thing because it's based on evidence, and that's what science is all about. So we're Tier 1, medical professionals, long-term care facilities where we have a lot of deaths occurring in those older, more fragile individuals. We have essential personnel being vaccinated in order to provide the essential services we need to survive. So Tier 1 has gone reasonably well. Tier 2 is being started in Washoe County. Many places around the country, they're still on Tier 1. So we've done a good job. And the health department's really been at the hub of this. And their drive-through clinics have been very effective. So how does this vaccine work for us? Well, it produces antibody, which can result in a reaction. So when you get the injection, you might get a sore arm. You might get a very sore arm. You might feel punky for a day or 2, but then it goes away. The true, really bad reactions, which are anaphylaxis, where you get your windpipe start squeezing off, are extremely rare and only really showed up when we started having millions of doses being given out. So that's a very rare complication. And if you go get to your vaccine, what will happen is they will make you wait to make sure you don't have an immediate reaction. We're doing well, but we need to do better because we need 75 to 80% of the population immune to COVID in order to produce herd immunity. And what happens with herd immunity? Can we go back to being maskless and hugging people? Yes, we can. And that's the exciting part and really the incentive at the end of the road. When it's your turn, go get vaccinated.
Take a look around and tell me what you see. Don't tell me that the world doesn't have beauty. Brings gifts, it brings life. Oh, what a sight it is to be.
human on this earth, which we thrive. Oh, what a joy it is to be alive. Sing songs, we do work, we have fun. Who knew what we'd grown to be? Take my hand, walk in the sand, run through the forest, barefoot as fast as we can. See the sky, it's clear and blue. Oh, there's some clouds, they're white and true. Just one night, get on them, just one night, take them for a ride. The ocean so pretty, the waves so nice. Sit on the beach with a glass of ice. Climb rocks, we stock up on fruit juice in our minds. So take my hand, walk in the sand, run through the forest, barefoot as fast as we can. Let's take a trip, let's go on adventures, go to the sun so we can venture the stars that shine in the sky. Go on road trips all the way to the west coast, never look back so we can soak in the sun. I think we've won happiness. 1, 2, 3. So take my hand, walk in the sand, run through the forest, barefoot as fast as we can. So take my hand, walk in the sand, run through the forest, barefoot as fast as we can, as we can, as we can.
Hello, my name is Deanna Sandy, and I'm the Communications Manager for COVID Crew here at the School of Community Health Sciences at the University of Nevada, Reno. So I was asked, why do I care about public health? What does it mean to me? And it's a very, very personal thing. I love public health, and I believe that it's a basic human right to have access to health care. I believe that a child's health status shouldn't be a reflection of his or her socioeconomic status. And as silly as it may sound, fundamentally, I care for other human beings. I was a single mom for more than 12 years, and I could not imagine how hard it would be right now to be a single parent during this pandemic. The UN released their latest report from Insights to Action, and they outlined there that about 96 million people would go into extreme poverty this year due to the pandemic. Of that 96 million, 47 million are women and children. That's another reason why I care about public health. But public health connects us in so many different ways. We're promoting healthy lifestyles, researching disease, injury prevention, doing our part to improve our local communities, the health of our local communities. This community is strong with a lot of people that care, that give a lot, that helped a lot, all of our small businesses during this pandemic. With that same heart, can you begin to see those that aren't seen? Can you help give a voice to those that can't speak? So Nevada, wherever you are in our state, north, south, your city, your neighborhood, your church, look out for each other. We should care about our neighbors, check up on each other. That neighbor that you have down the street may have had COVID for 5 weeks. They didn't have a family here, they lost their job, they don't have food. They're feeling the long-term effects of COVID, and we're just learning about some of them. Confusion, headaches, feeling tired, just to name a few. That's why we should care. This pandemic is not just about people getting infected or being infected, it's about people being affected. Close to 400,000 deaths so far, and it's heartbreaking for the loved ones that are here to pick up the pieces, but for each person that passes, there's thousands left here facing mental health issues, domestic violence, child abuse, suicide rates going up. The amount of pain in our country is insurmountable. We should care so that we can all heal together. One of the biggest and most things I'm most grateful for is my health every day, for my family's health. Health is tied to the quality of life and how we live. So please wear your mask, wash your hands, continue to socially distance, get vaccinated so we can start thinking about that long list of things that we want to do when this is over, and we can start checking that off. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Scafidi, and I am a transgender woman. I am honored and humbled to be on this panel with so many accomplished women. As you may know, there are several women in local governments throughout the country, as well as those that serve nationally, that are openly LGBTQ+. Paraphrasing an old commercial, we as women have come a long way, baby, but we still have a long way to go. There is still inequality in the workplace. Many women make less than men for doing the exact same job. Transgender women have an even more difficult time just finding employment. Once in the workplace, women that identify as LGBTQ+ can experience discrimination just because of who they are or who they love. Transgender women may also encounter hostility when accessing a public restroom. We are all better together. LGBTQ+, straight, no matter the color of your skin or how you worship. We all need to have each other's back and support one another. You may not understand someone else's way to worship, their culture, their sexual orientation, or their gender identity, but when we support one another, we are all better off. If you do not personally know someone that is different from you, I encourage you to make the effort to seek them out and learn about them. If you feel that you are part of a misunderstood population and feel safe doing so, I encourage you to be out and open about who you are. You just may change someone's opinion. Thank you, and remember, we are all better together.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. You know, I bet you're wondering why I chose Schoolhouse Rock to represent me today here at the Women's March. And I think it's pretty simple. I think that children learn things through song and through play and through all kinds of ways that teach us about what our values are. And these songs helped me to understand why I love my country and why I should love my country. And the preamble holds so much about equality that we haven't achieved yet. So sing this along with me, and let's talk about making equality equal for everyone. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to our ourselves and our posterity to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America, for the United States of America. I love you, America.
Hello everyone, my name is Dominique Hall, and I am UNR Student Body President. It is my first Women's March today, and I'm excited to discuss justice, specifically environmental justice. We've endured plenty in 2020. We've lost, we've gained, and most importantly, we've survived. What's next? We need to continue demanding justice. In Nevada, the USDA found that nearly 155,000 Nevadans live in a food desert, which means they have no access to healthy foods, which lead to more Nevadans being susceptible to many diseases. While we're on the topic of health, COVID-19 resulted in the loss of many Nevadans losing access to hospitals. In Nevada, hospitals experienced a 230% increase in COVID-19 patients alone. On another topic of concern, Los Angeles is reportedly cheaper to live than Reno, Nevada. What this means is 7,200 Nevadans reported that they were homeless, and a number of our youth are homeless living in our own Eddie House in Reno, Nevada. Lastly, I want to touch on the reality that many women in Nevada face. There are only 11 domestic violence centers in Nevada, and only 4 of them being in rural areas. In addition, Nevada colleges don't have access to sexual violence support services, despite 1 in 5 women being victims to sexual violence during their higher education journey. If 2020 taught us anything, it's that we're better together. That said, we need to work together to secure our basic needs and our life's necessities. We have to advocate for women's rights, for youth homelessness, and for food deserts. Most of all, we have to lead with compassion to inspire the next generation of women who are going to be our nurses, lawyers, and whatever job opportunity and make this world a better place. Everything is one step further, and we will make it up the mountain. In 5 years, I want to see Nevada have another youth homeless shelter. I want to see our colleges have better support services for campus sexual violence victims. I want to see us all working together to make Nevada a better place for women, our children, and everyone that we love, because we are truly better together.
Hello, Women's March. My name is Holly Wellborn, Policy Director for the ACLU of Nevada. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again. For over 50 years, the ACLU of Nevada has served as the state's premier government watchdog and civil rights organization. We fight to promote policies that advance civil liberties and defeat those that inhibit or violate our most sacred constitutional rights. We accomplish our work through public education, local and legislative advocacy, and litigation. On February 1st, lawmakers will convene in Carson City for what is sure to be one of the most challenging legislative sessions in recent history. Lawmakers will tackle insurmountable budget issues caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Unless there is considerable aid from the Biden administration or a commitment from lawmakers to increase revenue, we face unprecedented cuts to programs that support our most vulnerable communities. While the budget fights loom, we cannot allow lawmakers to forget their promises to policy issues. The ACLU of Nevada will work to advance bills on a variety of issues, including reproductive justice, immigrant rights, government transparency, with special emphasis on criminal law and police reform. The events of this past summer, where millions marched in the streets demanding racial justice, and the clear contrast in the treatment of white nationalist insurrectionists storming our nation's capital compared to the treatment of Black Lives Matter protesters makes clear that we must end racism in policing. Although lawmakers instituted modest changes to police practices during a special session, those changes didn't even scratch the surface of reforms needed to end the murder of Black and brown people at the hands of police with near impunity. We will work this session to end qualified immunity that shields officers from civil liability, fight for transparency and effective supervision of police, and create meaningful, independent investigatory bodies to limit the control and diminish the biases law enforcement has when making it impossible to hold their colleagues accountable. We will also fight to end the imposition of jail time for failure to pay fees for minor traffic offenses and, once and for all, end the death penalty in Nevada. But we can't do it alone. We need your voice. Visit www.action.aclunv.org to join our fight for justice. Thank you for being here, and happy Women's March.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. And I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I learned how to get along. And so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. Go on now, go. Walk out the door. Just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye? You said you got crumbled. You said you got laid down and done. No, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love. I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Hey, hey. It took all the strength I had not to fall apart. Kept trying hard to mend the pieces of my broken heart. And I spent so many nights feeling sorry for myself. I used to cry, but now I hold my head up high and you see me, somebody new. I'm not that chained up little person still in love with you. And so you felt like dropping in and just expect me to be free. Now I'm saving all my love for someone who's loving me. Go on now, go. Walk out the door. Just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to break me with goodbye? You said you got crumbled. You said you got laid out and down. No, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. I've got all my life to live. I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Oh. Go on now, go. Walk out the door. Just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to break me with goodbye? You said you got crumbled. You said you got laid down and down. No, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. I've got all my life to live. I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. I will survive.
Hello, it's really an honor to be here this year on the Hollywood Squares version of the Women's March this year. My topic is economic justice, and through the historical lens of the value of American labor. For 160 years, from 1776 to the late 1930s, economic justice was elusive because there was little to no personal value for American labor. The drafters of our Constitution in 1787 danced all around it with this beautiful preamble. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, promote the general welfare, establish justice, tranquility, secure the blessings. But there was something missing. There were no women delegates at the Constitutional Convention. And I can't help to think, if there'd been a Cortez Masto there, perhaps there would have been a more pragmatic approach. That maybe raise your hand and say, hey, guys, you do remember why we overthrew the King of England, right? And we wanted this free trade, and we want free enterprise, that capitalism thing, and our labor had no value for ourselves. It funneled all the way up to the king. We had little economic justice for ourselves. Tell me you guys remember this. You did do your homework from 1776 when you signed the Declaration. Oh, by the way, the same year, there was a Glasgow Times bestseller you must have read, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, where Adam Smith says, what improves the circumstances of the greater part, the workers, the laborers, and the servants, cannot be regarded as an inconvenience to the whole. You guys read that, right? Oh, and did you get the watch out situation later? That the masters are always and everywhere in combination not to raise the wages of labor. Tell me you guys did your homework. But of course, there were no women at the Constitutional Convention. So in 1861, Abe Lincoln is standing tall in front of Congress in his first address and says, labor is superior to and independent of capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor and could never have existed had not labor existed first. Therefore, labor deserves much the higher consideration. Well, the men in charge didn't like that one bit, so we had a civil war which decided once and for all that no man, woman, or child's labor shall ever be for free. Great, we've got a basement level. It's not zero. The value of labor is not zero. It only took us 90 years to get there. And just maybe if we'd have had some women delegates in 1787, we wouldn't have had a war. And it would have taken half the time to realize our labor was not zero for free. The 1870s through the early 1900s was known as the Gilded Age. It was an era of incredible industrial expansion in the United States of America. We, the people, became the greatest producers in the world of commodities and resources. The result of that was profits skyrocketed to the top for tycoons and corporations, and the working class remained poor. There was such a gross dichotomy that President Rutherford B. Hayes said, this is the people's government no longer. It is a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. So what did the workers do? The workers formed and joined unions, like the Knights of Labor, one of the first national unions, who recruited women and African Americans. Who are these organizers? Women, like Mary Harris Mother Jones, organized for the Knights of Labor. And she was a huge advocate of the United Rail Workers and Eugene Debs. She was so successful that she became labeled by the industrial capitalists at the time as the most dangerous woman in the world. Rose Schneiderman, a garment union factory worker in New York City, the factory burnt down. She became an outspoken advocate for workplace safety, coined the phrase bread and roses, that workers don't just need bread, they need roses too. Rose to prominence, was befriended by Eleanor Roosevelt, and was the only woman appointed by FDR to a National Labor Relations Advisory Board. What did these dangerous women want? Well, radical concepts like the 8-hour day, child labor laws, a safer workplace where 35,000 workers weren't killed and 1 million injured annually. How successful were they? Marginally. Why? Well, you remember that watch-out situation from Adam Smith when the masters combined? Boy, did they, in a big way. In 1912, 700 power broker, business and industry delegates met and formed the United States Chamber of Commerce, the most powerful business collective on planet Earth to this very day. Their mission statement, anti-labor, free enterprise through individual opportunity. Individual opportunity brought to you by the largest, most powerful business collective on planet Earth. I don't know if that's ironic or just oxymoronic. They played a huge role in the future. In 1929, the Great Depression was a paradigm shift moment in thinking about economic justice and the value of American labor. FDR proposed and Congress appropriated and passed programs and laws which were challenged every step of the way by the Chamber of Commerce and their counterparts. One that survived, the 1935 National Labor Relations Act, upheld in 1937 by a 5-4 Supreme Court decision, was a watershed moment. It created a National Labor Relations Board which oversaw unfair labor practices and was a sounding board for workers. It also upheld the workers' rights to form and join unions and collectively bargain to share in the prosperity with their employers that they built day after day, year after year. To say this was a transformational moment would be a massive understatement. Why? Because for the next 4 decades, we created the American middle class, and we had tranquility. For the first time in a century and a half in industrial relations, there was peace. This EPI chart really shows the distinction of the income going to the top 10% and the rise of unions. It's a really neat chart, and you can see from the 30s to the 70s how collective bargaining was democracy applied to industrial capitalism. In the late 70s, as we know, the Barry Goldwater, Milton Friedman, Lewis Powell, ultra-conservative movement, the government had no role in commerce, that was communism, really played out, caught fire, and here we are today. Today, we have increasing poverty, we have a declining middle class, we have gross inequality, worker misclassification, civil unrest. Does this sound familiar? It should. You cannot turn on the news, the nightly news, without seeing a report about the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and it mostly going up. Wouldn't it be refreshing to also see the Mother Jones Industrial Labor Average? Hey, Jill, guess what? The Mother Jones Industrial Average skyrocketed on the news that FedEx, Walmart, and Amazon workers formed and joined unions. This next graph from the Center for American Progress shows the decline of unions is in parallel to the decline of income in the American middle class and the workers of the United States. So the answer to this broad economic inequality and the answer to a broader economic justice is twofold. Number one, we need to elect more pro-labor women to office. And number two, the answer to promoting that general welfare, to raising wages, to securing the blessings, to tranquility, to this gross inequality, the answer to organized corporations, to organized commerce and organized greed, that answer is organized labor. It's been an honor to be here with you today. And for more information on how to form and join unions, please check out nlrb.gov. And you can always get a hold of us at info@nnclc.org. Have a great 2021, everyone. Thank you.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along
Today, more than ever, Americans are on the alert when it comes to witnessing bigotry, bias, hatred, disparate treatment, mean-spirited jokes about others, whether it's about their culture, their religion, their customs, their politics, or their lifestyles. People are deeply affected by bias, bigotry, hatred, and injustice, especially injustice in the workplace or injustice just in a quiet place or a public setting. It can be injustice in a family. People are very disturbed about handling this. In preparing for this presentation, I thought it best to ask close friends and family the same question. If you were in a staff lounge, a gymnasium, a park, a room, a restaurant, a library, with a group of friends that you knew, and someone mentioned an off-color joke, and you heard everyone laughing, what would you do? How would you respond? Well, to my astonishment, majority of my family members and my friends said I would just ignore it and go on about my business. Others said, well, I'd want to do something, but I just wouldn't know how to handle it. I'm very uncomfortable when it comes to situations like this. The women's movement of today is designed to help each of us deal with more situations of this magnitude and to deal effectively with issues of this magnitude. I was quite shocked when close friends of my own and members of my family were nearly unresponsive as to how or what they would do if they were put in this uncomfortable situation. This lack of action reminded me of a powerful letter written by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in 1963. It was titled Letter from a Birmingham Jail. The letter was personal. It was a personal response to the clergy who Martin Luther King was actually a part of. These guys criticized him for speaking out against racial injustice and discrimination, which had gone on for centuries in the United States. In the letter, Dr. King noted injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Whatever affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. Our call to action is, if you hear something, say something. Speak up. Speak out. Speak out about offensive behavior. Speak out about abusive behavior, abusive language. Speak up against racism, misogynism, anti-Semitism, homophobic beliefs, and other antisocial beliefs that degrade human personality. It is now time to live in dialogue, not monologue. Don't be afraid to do what is right. The time is always right to do what is right. Engage others in a conversation that is courageous today.
Hello, my name is Angelica Lisbeth Garcia Mendoza, better known as Angie throughout my community. I am a married mother of 4 beautiful children and an advocate. I, just like over 600,000 other DACA recipients, was brought here at an early age undocumented. I was born in Mexico, but Nevada became my home at the age of 3. I have lived here for over 30 years, and I love working in the community that I grew up in. As a child, I had hopes and aspirations, dreams that were unattainable when I realized I was undocumented. So many doors were shut, but I so desperately wanted a chance to prove myself. When DACA was first introduced in 2012, all those aspirations became attainable. There were no longer dreams, but reachable goals. I was given the opportunity to prove myself a contributing member of society. DACA provided me the means to not only better my life, but the life of my children and the families I work with today. I am now a legal resident and look forward to becoming a citizen this year. I am an outreach coordinator and a bilingual advocate for the Women and Children Center of the Sierra. I am a student at TMCC. I am studying for my Associates of Arts in Social Work to better serve the community I work with.
Supporting DACA means supporting those dreams. Dreams for something better. I urge you to defend DACA and protect the hundreds of thousands of dreamers out there today.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag. Ooh, so we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner pies, and we walked off to look for America. Kathy, I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh, Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw, and I've gone to look for America. Laughing on the bus, playing games with our faces. She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. I said, be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. Toss me a cigarette, I think there's one in my raincoat. We smoked the last one an hour ago. Ooh, so I looked at the scenery. She read her magazine, and the moon rose over an open field. Kathy, I'm lost, I said, though I knew she was sleeping. I'm empty and aching, and I don't know why. Counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike, they all come to look for America. All come to look for America. All come to look for America. All come to look for
I'm Dr. Sandra Cosgrove. I'm a history professor at the College of Southern Nevada and the executive director of Vote Nevada. When our founders wrote the U.S. Constitution, they were interested in achieving representative government, but were not keen on providing direct power to the people. This explains why the body of the Constitution does not mention voting rights, yet it does lay out multiple paths to power for those who were already powerful. Allowing state legislatures to appoint federal senators was one example of this, but the centerpiece of the effort to embed the illusion of democracy into our founding document was the Electoral College. While we all cast a ballot for president, a small group of privileged electors picked the president. In addition to reserving the power of the presidency to the better men, Electoral College math gave a devastating advantage to slaveholders. A state's number of electors is directly tied to the state's number of senators and members of the House of Representatives. And because of the 3/5 clause, which counted slaves as 3/5 of a person in the census, Southern states received 17 more members of the House and therefore 17 more Electoral College votes in the first election. Furthermore, the census process allowed all states to leverage their whole number of residents into more federal representation without any obligation of expanding voting rights. A nefarious practice of drawing political representation maps to advantage the two political parties compounded this problem. This practice is called gerrymandering and appeared for the first time in 1812. This stain on democracy continues today as gerrymandering gives the political party insiders more power by forging candidate loyalty to the parties and not to the people. Voting as a mechanism of accountability disappears with gerrymandering. Over the course of American history, marginalized and excluded groups received voting rights and the power to hold elected officials directly accountable by amending the U.S. Constitution. Women were members of an excluded group and were outside of the U.S. Constitution until 1920 with the ratification of the 19th Amendment. So it is especially our duty to address the legacies of voter suppression and distorted representation. We must continue the fight to elevate the voices of every person. The 2021 legislative session will include updates to AB 4, which is the new bill that managed our just completed election. We must listen to our election registrars, clerks, and elected officers for any improvements that they may recommend. And either at the end of this legislative session or possibly in a special session, legislators will draw new district maps. The public has every right to be included in that process. We, the people, carry the right to representation, and so we must ensure we are heard.
In 2017, led by our fearless state senator, Pat Spearman, Nevada revived the Equal Rights Amendment. A simple statement: equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. At last, this week Congress introduced a resolution to remove the arbitrary legislative deadline that has held back ratification despite having achieved the necessary votes. As we hailed those who persisted in getting women the right to vote against all odds, we celebrate our stalwart champion, Senator Spearman, who has placed us on the threshold of equal rights and all that means for women, our families, and our communities. We stand with her in affirming the Equal Rights Amendment is about equality, period. With profound gratitude, we introduce to you our hero, Senator
When 2000
Spearman.
came in, I thought to myself, the metaphor for this year is revelation, meaning it would be a time for us to see more clearly. The dictionary defines revelation as a surprising and previously unknown fact, especially one that is made known in a very dramatic way. The past year was a revelatory experience in so many ways. Record number of women being elected into office. We continue to push to get the ERA into our Constitution. We elected a president who selected a vice president who will be the first woman, the first Black and Asian woman to hold that office. We saw white women in Louisville, Kentucky put their bodies between law enforcement officers and peaceful protesters to ensure their safety. We saw young people of various ethnicities, ideologies, and political persuasion join the Black Lives Matter protest, challenging systemic racism and willing to fight for change. We've seen how some have tried to sow seeds of distrust and hatred. But together, we fought back, not just for our families, but we fought back for the good of humanity. We know that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, and we will continue to co-create a more just world. Will it be challenging? Yes. Will it test our fortitude? Yes. But this is a righteous cause. This is a righteous cause, and the sacrifices will be worth it. We're in the very early days of 2021, so let us resolve to work together. Work together to fight for equality and equity. Work together to make sure our economic system rewards those who work hard for their money but still can't make ends meet. Work together to make sure we fight to deconstruct systemic racism, sexism, ageism, homophobia, transphobia, and all of the made-up excuses that continue to divide us. We must work together to make sure that students have an opportunity to get a post-secondary education or training in a way that doesn't compromise their financial future. We must work together to call out the implicit bias that exists in the medical community that has negative outcomes for BIPOC communities. We must work together to make sure the types of criminal justice reforms give BIPOC communities a chance for equal justice under the law. We must work together to make sure our budgets reflect our understanding of the various ways mental health, or lack thereof, ravages our communities, and we must commit to funding services that treat those who are mentally or emotionally challenged. We must work together. And if we work together, we can have community policing that has positive investments and has good outcomes for our communities. We must work together. We've got to make sure that those who commit a crime under the badge are held accountable. These are aspirational, and they require serious conversations, clear eyes, about the cause and effect of racism in our country's history and how it has perpetuated a system that robs people of their dignity, their future, and yes, even in some cases, their lives. I've experienced the satisfaction of joining with other social justice warriors fighting for positive change. And although it looks dark in our country now, I have hope. I have hope because I have been here before. I've seen this before. And I know that this darkness will open to a brand new day for us if we are willing to learn from our real history as a country, if we are willing to apply 2020 vision to ourselves, if we are willing to hold each other accountable for creating a more inclusive and equitable world, then and only then will we see the paradigm shift and movement to a promised land of diversity. On different occasions, Dr. King used the words of the Old Testament prophet Amos. And he used these words to challenge us to become what the Creator intended us to be. And so in Amos, he says, "But let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Is it worth it to work together? I say unequivocally yes, because we are better together. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer and I am the field organizer for Moms Clean Air Force here in Nevada. Moms Clean Air Force is a national organization with over 1 million moms and dads united against air pollution and climate change to protect our children's health. We recognize the importance of equitable solutions in addressing air pollution and the climate crisis, fighting for justice in every breath. I started the Nevada chapter of Moms Clean Air Force 4 years ago because I am a mother concerned about Nevada's air quality and the impacts that it is having on my family's health. My 2 sons and I suffer with asthma that is made worse by the frequent wildfires and low air quality in our area. It is my job to fight for my kids every day. I am proud to say through my work with Moms Clean Air Force and alongside Senator Chris Brooks and our coalition partners such as the Sierra Club, Nevada Conservation League, and PLAN, and many more, we have passed Nevada legislation with bipartisan support for Nevada to commit to 50% renewable energy by 2030 and help build support for 100% clean economy by 2050. This year, I am proud to support Senator Cortez Masto and advocating for transition of all diesel school buses to 100% clean electric. That could support SB 299 that also passed in the 2019 Nevada legislation to ensure all children have clean air to breathe when they are commuting to and from school. I will support this alongside the Senator's Renew America School Act. Moms are dedicated to work together towards a better, just future for our families, and we have an amazing amount of energy, especially when the health of our children is on the line. When we bring the energy to our friends, neighborhoods, and communities, we have the power to change the world. It is an honor and a privilege to be here to support the Reno Women's March, and it brings me hope to know that thousands of women are advocating alongside me for the health and the well-being for our families here in Nevada. Thank you for having me.
Numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend. 'Cause I've heard it all before, and I've been down on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. Oh yes, I'm wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I've gained. If I had to, I could do anything. I am strong. I'm invincible. I am woman. You can bend but never break me, 'cause it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. 'Cause I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer. 'Cause you've deepened the conviction in my soul. Oh yes, I'm wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I've gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I'm invincible. I am woman, watch me grow. See me standing toe to toe as I spread my loving arms across the land. But I'm still an embryo with a long, long way to go until I make my brother understand. Oh yes, I'm wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I've gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I'm invincible. I am woman. I am woman. I'm invincible. I am strong. I'm invincible. I'm invincible. I'm a woman. I am strong. I'm a woman. Stay strong, Nevada woman. Thanks for having us.
Hello, I'm Dayla Gibson. It's a pleasure to be asked to speak to the virtual Reno Women's March. I want to talk to you briefly today about advancing access to reproductive health care. Policy changes made in the United States over the last 4 years have put women's health care in jeopardy, not only in our state and nation, but worldwide as well. The people most affected are low-income women. Some examples of these dangerous changes include implementing the global gag rule, implementing the domestic gag rule for Title X recipients, the passing of trap laws throughout the United States that target abortion care providers and make it more difficult for women to obtain abortions, removing birth control coverage mandates for insurance plans, and keeping the Hyde Amendment in place that prohibits federal health care funding from being used for abortion care. Because the Nevada legislature has passed protections for reproductive health care and Nevada voters passed the Freedom of Choice Act in Nevada in 1990, our state is in a decent position to protect Nevadans from the impact of changes that could happen due to the makeup of the Supreme Court. The larger problem we have here in Nevada, as do many states, is the lack of access to reproductive health care, including abortion care. In northern Nevada, there are only 2 providers of abortion care services, and both are located in Reno. Access to other reproductive health care is only slightly better. A lot of people have to drive hundreds of miles for care. Depending on the Supreme Court's ruling on several upcoming cases that are before the court, access to reproductive health care, particularly abortion care, could change dramatically around the country. These changes will have devastating effects for those communities. With all this in mind, everyone should advocate for better access to care. Local, state, and federal lawmakers are looking for areas in their budgets to cut spending due to the impact of the pandemic on our economies. Make sure your elected officials know that cuts to reproductive health care and family planning funds are unacceptable. The other thing you can do is donate to nonprofit organizations that deliver direct services for reproductive health care, like Planned Parenthood. The local Planned Parenthood affiliate, Planned Parenthood Marmonte, has been open and serving our communities throughout the pandemic. The affiliate has a healthcare center in Reno, as well as health centers in their service areas in California. In fiscal year 2020, Planned Parenthood Marmonte Health Center saw over 180,000 unique patients. Over 75% of those patients are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Over 80% of patients were women, and 91% of all patients were at or below 200% of the poverty level. Donations to organizations like Planned Parenthood can help them reach more patients in their communities, as well as help provide care to people coming into our state because they may not be able to receive reproductive health care in their own communities. Thank you for all you do and for participating in the 2021 virtual Reno Women's March.
Hello, marchers. Being age 72, I'm speaking with you today to honor and remember our seniors. The women who have trailblazed and worked so diligently to advance equality and rights for all of us. Who is the senior? AARP says 50, Reno 60, Medicare 65, and Social Security has the age creeping up. If you're a senior, give yourself a pat on the back. And congratulations for making it this far. Unfortunately, COVID has hit seniors the hardest, and it is up to all of us to take extra precautions to save our seniors from this devastating virus. It is so disheartening to hear some say, well, they were old, they were going to die anyway. Stop it. These seniors have family and many precious moments to share, and much more to contribute to our society. But let's take a moment to remember those seniors who have already passed without having the advantage of the vaccination. Thank you. The best advice, but who asked, is to plan and prepare for your senior years, especially financially. There are resources on the March site that will help you with information so you can avoid costly mistakes as you age. They give you hints for each age bracket and what you should prepare for. As you approach the age of 50, it's especially important to join organizations like AARP and Women of Washoe Well, of which I'm a member of both, so that you can gain information and talk to other seniors to help you as you plan for these wonderful years. It is a well-known fact that women live longer than men and live in more poverty in their later years. I say this not to distress you, but to prompt you to take actions that will improve your wonderful senior years, where you'll be vibrant, wiser, and not sweat the small stuff. The theme of today's march is Better Together. Imagine the possibilities. So take a moment to imagine the possibility and picture yourself as a vibrant senior. Where are you? What are you doing? Keep this vision in mind as you plan for the future. Women have contributed much to society without the recognition they deserved, and we all know this. But after seeing the movie Hidden Figures, it made me realize this even
Alexis
more.
and tell her what's going on.
Kathleen Johnson imagined the space program without her marvelous mathematical skills to save the program. So let us work to bring equal treatment for all, so we will never have hidden women figures again. Though politics may not be your favorite sport, what happens there can change the rest of your life. Stay informed, or talk to people who are informed, and take actions when you can. While current events have overshadowed our great achievement of having our first woman vice president, Kamala Harris, let's take a moment now to applaud again. In ending, I call on all of you to embrace a vibrant senior and embrace becoming one. Plan for it. Find time to talk to a senior, maybe isolated and lonely. Find time to talk to a senior. So many are isolated and lonely. This may give you a new perspective on aging and make you look forward to your senior years. So please have a happy and healthy 2021.
Thank you, organizers and visionaries of this Women's March. I am here today to spend a mindful minute talking about the imperative of paying attention to your mental and emotional well-being. During a time in our lives when there's so much unrest and incivility going on in the world, it's often easy to fall prey to negativity and to forget about the benefits of human kindness. So for me, having a day like today, this Women's March, gives you and me an opportunity to reflect on the importance of simply stopping, being still for a moment, and taking stock of what's good and of what's working well in your life, including, besides yourself, who you can count on for support. Also, today can be your day to take a self-inventory. Be mindful of the nature of your thoughts and your feelings. Are they positive and hopeful, or ones that are negative and doubtful? It's not only important today, but necessary every day to take a self-inventory with some regularity as a way to remind yourself that you're in charge and in control of what you think and how you feel. Ha, you might say. Easier said than done. And to that, I would say you're correct. It is easier said than done. So then how do you become expert of being in charge of what you think and how you feel? Practicing. Yes. Right now, in this very minute, decide that you want to be better at thinking, feeling, and doing more positively. And now imagine, and sometimes it really does help to close your eyes as a way of centering yourself and focusing. So try it. Try it right now. Close your eyes and just imagine for a minute, what do I need to begin to think and speak more positively? So for example, it may be asking a friend to be your accountability partner. And then this friend becomes responsible for telling you every time you're speaking negatively as a way to make you more aware. Because let's be honest, sometimes we're not always aware of what we're thinking and how we're speaking, especially when we're doing so negatively, and how this negative thinking and speaking in turn causes you to feel and behave badly. Once you become more aware of the nature of your thoughts and feelings, then begin practicing unceasingly. Truly practice being a more positive thinker as a way of taking care of yourself, but also as a way of caring about how you're affecting others. Because, after all, we really are better together.
You're broken down and tired, living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so don't walk it out. And mountains, we gon' walk it out, and mountains, and we'll rise up, rise like the day, we'll rise up, rise unafraid, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. We'll rise up, high like the waves, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, when the silence isn't quiet, it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet, and mountains, bring it to its feet, and mountains, and we'll rise up, rise like the day, we'll rise up, rise unafraid, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, all we need is hope. For that we have each other. For that we have each other. Yes, we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. We'll rise up, rise like the day, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, we'll rise 1,000 times again. We'll rise up, high like the waves, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, we'll rise up 1,000 times again. You
We are better together. Imagine the possibilities. One spark of an idea becomes a march that becomes a movement. One day you are standing alone and you look and see 10,000, maybe more, behind you. And what seemed impossible becomes a reality. And words translate into actions. There is so much more that we must do to form a more perfect union. The work must go on, hope must be kept alive, and the dream must never
What an
die.
amazing event. What an amazing event. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And as you know, we can't just march. We need to get involved. And the Women's March is setting up an amazing opportunity to do that. On Saturday, January 30th, we are setting up a Zoom speed networking for you and nonprofits to find out how you can make our community better. Please follow us on Facebook at Women's March Reno to stay involved. I want to thank all of our speakers, our performers, our organizers, sponsors, and community leaders. Remember, we are better together. And now, I'd like to introduce the final performance of the day. Please join us in welcoming spoken word artist Samara Horsley, who will be sharing her words in giving praise to a body.
I call this giving praise to a body. She says she is a myth of a body, that the first roar of thunder to break the silence of the earth came from her thighs. The first time I am called thunder thighs, I consider this body too extra, these limbs unnecessary. I have given praise to every time I've gone unnoticed. And do you know what it's like to be uncomfortable in your own skin? See, she was a savior to the people. The world was full of lies before she parted teeth to make room for a gap, meaning that when I speak of this body, I only speak truth. Meaning that the map of self-love can be found somewhere in my stretch marks, and they will call her goddess, queen, divine. She made it so I can be bold enough to call myself queen and mean it, and in the same sentence call myself fat and still mean it. See, the practice of this kind of love is done in secret now. To give praise to a body is taboo. To like the scars more than the memories. To worship one curl eyelash at a time. To give thanks to this body, to this melanin, to this woman.
Greetings, saludos. I'm Eloisa Gordon-Mora, the University of Nevada, Reno's Diversity and Inclusion Officer. And it is our great pleasure to salute all of you, but especially you, magnificent women. It is also our great honor to be one of the co-sponsors of the Reno's Women's March for the second consecutive year. Our gratitude to Jackie and all the dedicated organizers for this unique opportunity. A very hopeful, solidarity-driven, and happy New Year to all of you. Thank you and gracias.
Yeah. We need to play it.
We are better together. Imagine the possibilities. One spark of an idea becomes a march that becomes a movement. One day you are standing alone and you look and see 10,000, maybe more, behind you. And what seemed impossible becomes a reality. And words translate into actions. There is so much more that we must do to form a more perfect union. The work must go on, hope must be kept alive, and the dream must never die. We can do this. Imagine the possibilities.
Dear Myra, Olivia, and Anna, my 3 loving granddaughters, I've been writing letters to you. This is one of them. But let's share this with all the little girls everywhere. Here's something you need to know for the future. We are better together. Did you see that Kamala Harris is our first woman vice president and that she is a woman of color? She is the promise to you, the girls you have not yet met, and the women you will be. It will then be up to each of you to make sure her promise is fulfilled. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden tells us, together, we will build a world where the accomplishments of our daughters will be celebrated and not diminished. She knows that we are better together. Years ago, I could not have imagined a Kamala Harris. Since 1968, alongside many others, I've been protesting, writing letters, making phone calls. We were imagining a time when women wouldn't have to ask for permission to be in the world. We made some progress because we were better together. But in the past 4 years, we have watched some in our government attempt to dismantle the protections for women and children and the environment. These malefactors set about corrupting your inheritance, your institutions, your peace in order to make money. So in 2016, back we went into the streets to march and to protest, to our computers to write, to our phones to call, because we learned 50 years ago that we are better together. So what is the point of all of this activism? The point is that we were bearing witness then, and we are bearing witness again. We've got this, and we've got it for you.
We did it. I looked up at God when I received the news. So happy because this was a fight we couldn't afford to lose. I couldn't believe my eyes. I sat in silence for hours praising him as I began to cry. Tears of joy came over me. I felt comfort, love, acceptance, a true sense of peace. Imagining the possibilities, of us all coming together to make a shift, a change in history? Fighting for justice, liberty, true freedom would be the greatest victory. We all see the injustice. We all know the truth. Please don't ignore the injustice just because the injustice is not happening to you. Seeking positive effects. Things must come to change. That's why we chant, say their name. So many names, it's a shame. That's why I dream of a new world proclaimed. Lord, please drive out the wicked. We must get rid of the evil spirits. Stop the violence, speak up, don't remain silent. Black lives matter. Don't you hear our chatter? Dehumanization shouldn't exist in this nation. Let's put on the pressure to all become better, because we are all better together. I have 2 daughters and a granddaughter too. So many young ladies that will look up to you. So let's be the army of this land, joining women together to take a stand against racial injustice, bigotry, corrupt justice systems, and ignorance too. Stand to operate in love, fairness, and truth. We came together and we won the election. Now I believe we are truly headed in the right direction. A great reflection. We are better together. Can't you see the connection? Continue to do good works. Continue to spread hope. Our actions will speak loudly. Love over hate is the best way to cope.
Dear future daughters, my mother often reminds me of the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. She took this to mean all you have is your family. I took this to mean I did not unearth myself. I was built from generational excellence, those who blazed the world before me. They believed in being better together at the start. Take my grandmother. Bright, bold, and giving. She was loved by her community, laughed in the face of tradition, but prayed just as hard. She raised the children in her compound, just as her friends and neighbors raised my mother, just as her friends and neighbors raised me. Take my mother. Ambitious, loving, and caring. Wanting more for herself and her future, enough to move to a new country, build a new life, learn a new language. Leaned on her friends to help watch over her growing family and gave back to them whenever they needed her. Take me. Bright-eyed, optimistic, and curious. Healthcare worker, soon-to-be college graduate, living in a time no one could have predicted. Living with conditions too long to pronounce, but never alone. We are never alone. I still hear stories from people I was too young to remember, but swore they remember holding me and praying with my family. These are the people that raised me. They know what love looks like, despite the hardship and the struggle. Even when the whole world is crashing down around you, there will always be someone to help pick you back up from the rubble, reminding you that we were always better together.
Dear mothers, grandmothers, sisters, and aunts, thank you for being selfless. Mothers are not always women who have given birth, but rather those who sacrifice so that their daughters can thrive. My mom has always supported me and encouraged me to do my best. She celebrates my individuality and always keeps my best interests at heart. I also know a lot of women who have acted like mothers to me by doing all of those things. These women have shaped my life and have helped me find my own confidence. That's because mothers embrace, mothers nurture, mothers fight. Mothers and daughters are better together. So to all mothers, thank you for fighting for your daughters and for a better future. Thank you for giving us a shoulder to lean on and for making us stronger. Because of you, mothers and daughters are better together.
I can imagine the possibilities.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming out and joining us today. We are so grateful for you, and we are really grateful for all of the people on the committee who made this possible. We did have a few technical glitches, which I guess is the nature of the game in 2021. We appreciate your patience. We will be making this video available on our website, so you can watch the whole thing as many times as you want. Thank you again for coming out, and we are all better together.